Welcome to the 1 o'clock edition. I'm Colette Linden.
And I'm Dani Dupuis. Welcome to the special report.
Today's word of the day is spicy. Spicy. We're going to get really spicy today. Before we get extremely spicy, the premiere is coming on. You will see the split screen. You guys know the deal by now. You could probably tell it better than I can, right?
We'll cut Chris off. We'll probably be cut off the usual.
And then the premier will definitely be standing like this. And when he's this, that's when he's ready to go.
I wonder if he's going to be wearing his bouncer shirt today.
His COVID-19 bouncer. Ooh, I almost dropped my pen.
But honestly, he is doing a really good job.
He is doing a good job. Follow us on Facebook Live and ask questions. However, I can't answer because Mike, the producer, didn't help me out with my computer and it died. So I can't help you.
So we'll see if you guys are commenting on the live feed so we can.
Right now it's just black over here. But we want to throw a quick story about the YMCA.
Yes.
To update everybody on that.
The YMCA is now going to be offering free online courses. It goes along with the e-learning programs that they've set in place for children. And also it's a good chance for kind of gym teachers as well. They're able to put up their stuff and all the resources are going to be coming from the YMCA certified trainers and everything that they're doing.
It's in your home and there's no need not to get fit during this time. So, there's a lot of people out there that's really suffering from this, this quarantine life. And sometimes we forget about the little birdies and the animals in the world, too.
Yeah, I wonder how they're doing.
Like, what about the pigeons? What about the pigeons? Hey, Mike? Yeah, so there's pigeons that, they just sit there and...
They miss us.
They're depressed. They miss people. And he's just sitting there all alone looking for someone to...
do his business
to dump on. Yeah. So we're thinking of the pigeons today in this spicy Thursday afternoon. And speaking of dropping feces, I'm going to send it over to Chris.
Well, thank you very much, Colette. Yes, tonight at 7 p.m. I will be dropping on APH. I'm going to discuss how they have dropped the ball during this COVID-19 pandemic. And I'll be explaining why and how they're doing it and what could actually be changed for the better. Tomorrow night at 7 as well, I'll also be interviewing the mayor of Elliott Lake, and a third of all the COVID-19 cases are in Elliott Lake, so that'll be an informative interview as well. And if we get to it before Doug Ford comes out, I'll be talking about 2 different government programs that are being modified for small businesses that just came out from our local MP, Terry Sheenan. Back to the desk.
Merci beaucoup, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
We are going to start over with the premier and throw it over to the premier right now.
Deadliest diseases. These people understand better than anyone in our system how viruses like COVID-19 work. And they know how to stop this virus dead in its tracks. I've said it before, the dedication and commitment of our long-term care home staff is incredible, truly incredible. They continue to put the needs of the community ahead of themselves, but they need our support. And I want them to know more help is on the way. I said we would do absolutely everything in our power to fight this virus. And after weeks of preparation and hard work by hospital staff and our frontline heroes, we've added over 2,000 acute care and critical care beds to our hospital system since the start of this outbreak. And we're on track to add another 4,200 acute care beds by the end of April. It's because of these efforts that we're able to redeploy resources to our long-term care homes and other priority areas. And last week, I promised by today, we'd be testing 8,000 people a day. Well, today, we're at over 9,000 COVID-19 tests. We've hit our first target, and we're going to keep ramping up our efforts until we hit 14,000 tests a day by the end of this month. We'll continue to expand testing more people and priority groups. We've expanded our testing guidelines. We're making sure we're testing the people who need our support the most. We'll be testing at homeless shelters and women's shelters, homes for people with disabilities. We'll be testing women who are pregnant and newborns, people who are undergoing chemotherapy, dialysis, or requiring transplants, because my top priority is making sure no one in this province is left behind. Folks, this situation is unprecedented, and I can promise you, we're working around the clock to find solutions to the problems we as a province have never faced before. We've started by working directly with our partners on the ground, municipalities, charities, and shelters, to make sure they have the resources to keep their staff and residents safe. And in the coming days, we'll provide more detail in the next phase of our plan to further support these communities. The challenges we're facing from COVID-19 impact every person in this province. If it's a financial impact, mental impact, physical impact, we will be there to support you. Let me finish by saying this. I know that each and every family that have lost a loved one is grieving right now, and I grieve with you. I know that people are worried about their next paycheck, and I worry with you. I know that people are anxious staying in their homes, and I share that anxiety with you. And that's exactly why I'm working around the clock. That is why my staff is working around the clock, and that is why the Ontario Public Service is working around the clock. We won't stop working for each and every one of you. Thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you. I'll pass it over to Minister Elliott.
Thank you, Premier, and good afternoon. From the beginning of the outbreak of COVID-19, we've been firm that the health and well-being of our people must be our #1 priority. We've been hard at work planning for every contingency, planning to respond to any scenario. To truly honor our commitment to safeguard the health of Ontarians, we have at all times operated under the assumption that the worst will occur and have planned accordingly. We have taken nothing for granted, including working with Ontario's hospitals to create unprecedented capacity at remarkable speed. Because of these efforts, Ontario has added more than 1,000 acute care beds, with the potential for an additional 4,200 beds by April 30th. The total number of acute care beds now stands at well over 20,000. There are now 3,500 critical care beds in our hospitals, nearly 1,500 more than when the outbreak started. Of these beds, more than 2,800 are now equipped with life-saving ventilators, up from 1,300 just a few short weeks ago. These considerable efforts have been organized in coordination with pandemic staffing plans to ensure that each hospital has the physicians and staff needed in case of a major surge of cases. As part of this expansion, we are redeploying surgical nursing staff who can now work with medical units, sharing highly trained emergency department and intensive care unit nursing staff across units, sharing physician resources across hospitals in a given region, recruiting family doctors to complete shifts within the hospital, and recruiting retirees, including nursing and support services personnel. All told, we are prepared to respond to a surge in cases should it occur. We are ready to protect the health and well-being of Ontarians. Before I conclude, allow me this opportunity to thank our partners on the front lines, the Ontario Hospital Association, the experts at the COVID-19 command table, and the leadership of Ontario Health for helping to build this new capacity. Long before any of us had heard of COVID-19, our government launched an ambitious project to break down the long-standing barriers that have for decades now locked the expertise of Ontario's world-class health agencies away in silos. That project culminated in the creation of Ontario Health, a new agency that brings together the combined knowledge, strengths, and experience of up to 20 existing health agencies and the many talents of their highly skilled staff into one integrated organization. In doing so, Ontario's healthcare system has benefited immensely, as Ontario Health has demonstrated a degree of responsiveness and shared purpose not previously imaginable. Indeed, looking at the significant capacity created in our hospitals in such a short period of time, it's clear that we have all benefited. Thank you.
We talk a lot about heroes during this pandemic. There are many heroes in communities across Ontario. These everyday heroes go above and beyond every single day, no matter what. And there's a special type of hero that I want to recognize today. They're superheroes, in my opinion. These heroes are known as personal support workers, or PSWs. To all the personal support workers, I'm speaking directly to you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. When I speak to people about long-term care in Ontario, the one thing they all have in common is stories about a personal support worker that impacted the life of their loved one in a big way. And I have those stories too. And as we continue our efforts against COVID-19, we are seeing how this virus is unfolding in a vicious way across the world. Long-term care homes around the globe are on the front lines. And yesterday we launched our COVID-19 action plan for protecting long-term care homes. And today I want to provide you with an update. In the last 24 hours, we have seen 5 hospitals in Toronto band together to support 38 long-term care homes. This is the model that we will be expanding across this province. Issued guidance to hospitals to temporarily stop the transfer of patients to long-term care homes, and worked with public health to complete risk assessments for all 626 long-term care homes to ensure that resources are most effectively deployed, and issued new guidance to long-term care homes and retirement homes on usage of masks, updated guidance documents regarding new long-term care home testing strategy and outbreaks in long-term care homes to reflect our new action plan and emergency order, building on our previous efforts. And we will continue to take decisive action in our efforts against COVID-19 in our long-term care homes across Ontario. Everything is on the table, and we will spare no expense to keep our most vulnerable people in long-term care safe.
We'll go to questions. First question.
First question comes from Lisa Shing from CBC. Please go ahead.
Hi there, Premier and Ministers. On long-term care workers only working in one home, that order starts in 1 week, April 22nd, and the measure will only last for 2 weeks. And we're also learning temporary workers are still able to work between different homes. Now, if we look at say British Columbia, it stopped workers working between homes much earlier by paying all of them full-time wages. And their emergency measures last for the duration of the COVID pandemic. So why aren't we going further to get this right?
So we started this through the recommendation from the Chief Medical Officer of Health 4 weeks ago. It was strongly recommended. We wanted to take additional measures and make sure that there was providing even more safety for our long-term care home residents, and that is why the emergency order has been declared. For the staff in the long-term care homes and the operators of the long-term care homes need time to adjust to this. Some employees will have to choose. If they're not already working in one home only, they will have to choose, and they need time to give their employers their decision, and for also the employers to be able to have enough staff. And that's why this was put together with the staffing strategy as well, in terms of workers coming from the home care sector or hospitals and the other supports we've put in. In terms of the agency workers, we know that many homes have been struggling before this pandemic came to be in terms of staff. And that's what our ministry, the Ministry of Long-Term Care, was working very hard to to resolve that issue when this pandemic broke. So in the context of a pandemic where staff may have to self-isolate, we needed a group that could be able to provide the safety for our residents in long-term care through shoring up the capacity of staffing, and that's why the agency workers were not included. They will, and I should add that they must adhere to strict and rigorous screening. That has to be across the board. But this was allowed our long-term care homes to be able to maintain the staffing that's necessary, particularly right now.
Thanks very much. And my follow-up more generally is the fact that we're now seeing outbreaks in more than 100 long-term care homes. Mm-hmm. So why did measures we implemented weeks ago, like screening, fail to stop those infections right at the door?
Yes, and that's exactly what our Chief Medical Officer of Health and Public Health is looking at with our targeted screening in select homes to understand how elusive this COVID-19 is and what else we can do, what other tools we have for this. Obviously, it's testing, but it is asymptomatic spread, and this has never been seen before. COVID-19 is a new type of virus. Typically, pandemics are influenza, but in this case, it's a new virus with a new way of spreading. And this is a global phenomenon in long-term care across Canada. High rates of mortality amongst the over 80-year-old groups to begin with, and whether that's in the community or long-term care homes, but this is a global phenomenon, highly impacting our long-term care residents and homes. It's tragic and it's unprecedented, and we rely on the advice and recommendations and directives of the Chief Medical Officer of Health, the best minds responsible for the scientific evidence and medical evidence that we have.
Next question.
Next question comes from Cynthia Mulligan from City News. Please go ahead.
Hello, Premier. My question is for you today. It's been almost 2 weeks since you released those modeling numbers with best worst case scenarios, and things.
Well, the Premier didn't disappoint, eh? Still
No,
standing
not
like
at
this, and added 9,000. We're up to 9,000 tests and
Yes.
4,200 more acute beds. That we are going to
phenomenal. Phenomenal.
For sure. But we are going to get into that story when we get back with Chris after this commercial break.
What's life without making a few mistakes down the road? A few sharp turns. And doing things for what we adore, but might regret later. A trip to Chuck's Roadhouse isn't one of them. With melt-in-your-mouth AAA steaks, buttery lobster tail, half-priced apps after 9 p.m., an ice-cold draft with all your Roadhouse favorites. Chuck's Roadhouse. Food the way it ought to be, priced the way it used to.
I can't help but think of the Spice Girls today, because what's our word of the day is
Spicy.
Speaking of spicy, we have a spicy little story about a dog burglar.
Yeah, in my neighborhood, and I'm not sure if anyone else has experienced this.
No, I'm pretty sure they haven't.
Okay, so just me. There's a dog burglar, and when I say that, there is a dog going around the neighborhood taking toys off of lawns. I woke up this morning, my dog was missing his ball, his bone, his stick. Turns out the neighbor's dog.
Is your dog the dog burglar?
He did once, one time. We didn't mean to. It was an accident. But this time around was not my dog. So if anyone knows of a
She's
dog
wearing
burglar
rose-colored
around.
glasses.
Pardon?
You're wearing rose-colored glasses. Oh, there's the dog burglar right there. So if anybody sees this dog burglar, contact Sue online. Ask for Danny.
Yes.
Actually, no. Ask for Chris, because we're going to throw it over to him right now.
Thank you very much, Colette. Yeah, so just to summarize what the Premier just said, they're talking about both acute care beds and ICU beds. They've already added 1,035 acute care beds and then 1,492 critical care beds. Now, what they want to do by the end of, they already now have over 20,354 acute care beds, and they're going to have an additional 4,200 basically by the end of April. As far as critical care beds go, we now have 2,811 with ventilators ready to go, which is up from 1,319 when the outbreak started. So we've more than doubled our capacity there. Now, going on. We finally have the numbers today for Algoma Public Health for what's going on here in Algoma. We know we have now tested over 1,000 people. We're up to 1,052 tests. We're still at only 10 positive cases, so far. They haven't let us know if there's an 11th. And we have a pending cases of 229 results that we are still waiting for. More good news, though, from the Ontario government. Doug Ford wanted 8,000 tests to be per day by yesterday on Wednesday, and they hit 9,000. So that's awesome. We have now hit 9,000. They want to be at 14,000 by the end of the month. And that would allow us to actually be able to test all of our frontline workers, our paramedics, our police, our firemen, the people who are keeping us safe during this time, who should be tested because, one, you don't want them spreading stuff around the community, but also they are putting their lives on the line for us each and every day, and they deserve to know and be tested to make sure that they are themselves safe and that they are also not infecting their families when they go home. Now, we also just got something from Terry Sheenan. I mean, literally, like in the last hour, my emails have been blowing up with stuff. But the Canadian government is doing two things now slightly differently. One is entirely new. These are both for small businesses. But they're expanding what is called, I've talked about this before, it's the CEBA, which is the Canada Emergency Business Account. Now, before you had to have payroll between $50,000 and $1 million to qualify. They have modified that. Now businesses with payroll even as low as $20,000 in 2019 can qualify, and businesses up to $1.5 million. So they've expanded the range there to try and help small businesses more. Also, the other thing that they have now put in, which is brand new, which is the Canadian Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance. And what this is they're providing loans, some of them forgivable, to commercial property owners who have either lowered the rent on their tenants, most of those tenants being small businesses, or if they're even giving rent forgiveness and they're not even charging rent to those small businesses as they cannot presently operate. They are actually doing that retroactive. So it will be for April, May, and June so far in what they have announced for the Canadian Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance. And unfortunately, the rental regulations are actually done by provinces and territories and not by the federal government. So the federal government is going to have to work individually with each province on how they're going to actually roll that out. But I'm sure every province is going to be very cooperative on that, because there is plenty of small businesses that are closed. For example, let's say you're a barber shop. You're not generating any income, but there's a person that owns that building that the barber shop is in, and they're presently not able to pay rent unless they're actually paying it out of savings from the company. So that's a great thing that's been announced. That was announced by Trudeau today, and Terry Sheenan, our local MP, has been working hard for small businesses here in Canada, and that's awesome. I want to praise Trudeau and Ford for continuing that amazing work. Watch tonight at 7 p.m. where you'll see I'm not so amazed with Algoma Public Health. Back to you, ladies.
Well, that's a new story. Chris not happy with Algoma Public Health.
I know. Who knew?
I don't know.
Who knew?
I mean, not like you've been pissed off at them for how long now?
Wipe the shock off my face. Have you ever watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Yes.
Okay.
So good.
So there's a Ferrari in that movie, right?
Yes.
Right? And then the guys take it and they're like, and drive it.
Yes.
Okay. So Ferrari is doing something pretty cool right now. They are producing specialist valves at its factory out of snorkel masks into respirators used to treat patients.
There are a lot of companies right now who are thinking outside the box. Like we know Crocs, they're donating 10,000 shoes a day for frontline workers. And I'm not sure if you knew this, but Facebook has... Why would we know it? Facebook, you know, we use that so much. They've actually launched a program for grants, and they're helping out 30,000 small businesses in 30 countries. So, way to go, Facebook.
Yeah. Speaking of snorkeling masks, I was out food shopping yesterday.
I don't know where this one's going. I apologize.
Someone was actually wearing like the snorkeling mask with like the little tube that goes up, like you use in swimming pools. I'm not sure how that person thought that was doing anything to prevent them from catching COVID-19 because it wasn't a mask because their nose was like fully still out. And
people are being
I don't know,
so
it was the weirdest thing.
Could have been a part of that those memes that we posted the other day with the sponge and the elastic band.
I was just I looked at the person. I was like, I didn't know even what to say. I just kind of looked at him and then looked away.
Not
and
a
I was like,
smile.
Wow.
Not a smile.
Like,
just on the Ferrari thing though, they were actually keeping their logo there. So always branding,
right there.
always branding, and very smart of them to do so. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Zoom and dating for those who are in quarantine and single.
What are you doing? Because
I don't know. Okay, well, there's some really crazy ass things on here that's suggesting you to do. But what are you guys doing to Zoom date? Like, there's a suggestion here to host a Lego competition. I'm not sure if I fell upon a G-rated dating site or something, but I don't know. Like, what would you do?
You know what? If I
don't get too detailed though.
No. Well, I mean, like, how do you even just go like watch a movie with someone? You can't do that. So what do? Prop up your laptop, they prop up yours, and you both like have a video chat of you both watching the same movie.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But like a first date. Like, I'm not watching a movie, and like Chris said, if you
don't like the person, you can just be like, "Oh, oops, connection problems. Going through a tunnel. Sorry,
going through a tunnel.
Where would you go?
Hear you. Cook the same meal from different kitchens.
You know what, I was reading something about that. There was a couple who did it. They were both making the same type of pasta dish, but it was really interesting to see like how both of them made the same thing, but they both looked so different at the end of it too. And you know, propping up your table, set up your laptop.
I mean, I think I'm on the wrong website.
I think it takes the pressure off of it though, because it's, you know, at some point you have to meet the person. At least now it's like, okay, that's your only real option is to do a FaceTime or something.
You don't know what you're going to get, though. It could be like their hot brother standing in front of the camera, and then you go to meet the guy in a couple months from now.
As fake as those
plans.
There you guys go. For anyone wondering what was going on with their tulips for the past few weeks.
Pretty fake.
Maybe we'll have a real plantain tomorrow.
Let's talk about sports, because anytime Dani and I can talk about sports, we get very happy. And, oh wait, what's the word of the day? Spicy! We get really happy when we get to talk about sports, so it makes us spicy. So the RBC Canadian Open, we usually go to that every year. It's usually in Ancaster or in Oakville. And this year, you'll see it on your screen there. Wow. We were there the year Freddie Couples won not too long ago.
Really? Oh my gosh, that must have been so cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. Now, unfortunately, there will be no Canadian Open this year. And it's the first time since World War II that they've had to cancel that.
Yeah, and they've been going on since 1904, I believe. So that's wow. That's
and Chris, you were saying something about Wimbledon being canceled as well. That's the same thing.
This is the first time Wimbledon hasn't happened since World War II. Yeah.
So crazy stuff going on, and like, I don't know, tomorrow I want to get into your routines before the COVID-19 pandemic.
Has your routine changed?
Of course, everybody's routine's changed. You know what I mean? Like just going to the gym. Now you're doing different options. Your routines at home when you wake up, what are you doing, you know?
What are you doing when you get home? Because most people, I know some people used to go to like the bar after the end of their day to have a drink.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing
instead? So we're going to get into that tomorrow, but we want to remind you to email your stories to specialreportssm@gmail.com.
Yes. And hopefully we'll be shouting you out in our hashtag in this together.
SSM. So have a great Baby Friday. We will see you tomorrow when it's pajama day.
Yay.
And you cannot wait to see Chris. We don't know what he's going to wear, but we'll see you tomorrow morning.